Hello everyone, my name is Rick Hopkins, retired senior executive, full-time entrepreneur, and author of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Nonprofit Doesn't Mean No Profit. Now, I like to think of myself like a sergeant or a lieutenant in the armed forces, not like a general who sits way back on the back, sending orders up to the troops on the front line. I like to be right there where the action is, where I can see what's going on, and I can provide direction and leadership right there where it counts. Well, that's the way I live my life, and that's also the way I wrote the book. That's the way I want you to interpret it as you read the book. Now, if I had to pick one overarching theme, it would be that nonprofits can't solve today's challenges with yesterday's thinking and still expect to be in business tomorrow. We're simply in a new age. Things have changed. We must think and act differently. Money is no longer the gold standard. Now we have to deal in information. With enough information, you can get all the money you want. That's what nonprofits have to understand now. Now, let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about the word nonprofit, which I think has been a big problem for nonprofit organizations since the word came into being. Back in grade school, we were always taught, if you don't understand a word, to break it down into its component parts. So, the prefix non means no. The root word profit means to make money. So if we use that rule we learned in grade school, therefore nonprofit would mean no profit, right? Wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. If nonprofits can't make a profit, they won't be around long enough to help anyone, not even themselves. So, if you think that whether or not you make a profit determines your nonprofit status, you need to think again. Because for-profit or nonprofit status is not determined by whether or not you make a profit. It's what you do with that profit that counts. For example, if you're a for-profit company, you take that profit, it goes into the pockets of your staff, your board members, your shareholders. If you're a not-for-profit or a nonprofit, that money is reinvested back into the organization. Goes back into the community, not into someone's pocket. That's a big difference, but it has absolutely nothing to do with whether you operate in the red or in the black. Now, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. That's a quote from a famous play, Romeo and Juliet, written by a famous playwright, William Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare obviously was a romantic, because by that statement, it seems that he believed that in the end, reality will always overcome perception. Well, that has not been my life experience. My life experience has been that people's perceptions are their reality, and they're not about to change those anytime soon and without a lot of provocation. Now, speaking of names, in my family, names are very important. We never named our children after movie stars or athletes or entertainers. We always named them after someone in the family or a name that had significant meaning. Now, Kelly is a good, strong Irish name. Now, you may have guessed this, but I'm not Irish, and neither is Kelly's mother. But the name Kelly has significant meaning to me. Kelly means female warrior. Now, Kelly was born with 2 holes in her heart. They didn't think she was going to live, but she was born a fighter. In fact, not only did she live, but a month later when we were allowed to bring Kelly home from the hospital, she behaved just as if nothing was ever wrong, as if she hadn't spent all of her life with tubes coming out. Kelly was a fighter. She was a warrior. That name, I think, fit her and helped her develop her personality over the years. Well, now Kelly's in high school, and she is a standout performer on both her tennis and her track teams. Now, did the name have anything to do with that? Who knows? But my money's on someone who believes in something very strongly and takes ownership in that meaning can change their life. So, does it matter that nonprofits were called nonprofit? I think so, because people didn't understand what it really meant. Nonprofit had nothing to do with whether or not you made money. It was the purpose for which the organization was founded. It was founded, a nonprofit was founded not to make profit, but to provide service to the community while making a profit. A for-profit simply was founded for that purpose, to make money for somebody. It's really that simple. Well, there's clearly an elephant in the room here. And the elephant has a name, and the name is profit. So whenever nonprofits get together, we like to talk about all the wonderful work we do in the community and the number of people we serve and the lives we touch and how no one could do the things that we do. And that's true, it really is. But we have to put just as much energy and effort into focusing and concentrating on sustainability, the ability of our organizations to survive and to thrive, not just exist, but to have surplus mentalities, not deficit mentalities. One of my favorite expressions is no margin, no mission. The mission may be great, but if you don't have the money to fund it, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, as a consultant, I often interview my clients beforehand. I want to make sure that it's a good fit for them and for me. One of the questions I always ask is, how did your organization do financially last year? As you can imagine, I get a wide range of answers, but usually it's something like, well, we lost money last year, but we did some great work in the community. We served a lot of people. We touched a lot of lives. We really made a difference. And that's great. And I don't want to seem like a cynic. I mean, I'm not a negative person, but I'm a realist. And finances are important. So for somebody who says, well, we lost money last year, for me, everything after that statement begins to sound a little like this. Well, I hope that doesn't offend anyone, but the fact that nonprofits don't focus enough on the bottom line is a problem. Red ink is not a red badge of courage for nonprofit organizations. So we have to stop thinking that it's a proud thing to say that we lost money, because it isn't. Because if we're not around to help the people that need us most, we're really letting them down. One of the first things we need to understand is the concept of the revenue mix. A lot of times we like to put all of our eggs in one basket. We have to have some money that comes from fundraising, some money that comes from earned revenue, some money that comes from grants. We have to mix all those together to allow for the change in the financial and the economic times. If we put all of our eggs in that one basket typically tends to be grants, then we live or die by that one revenue stream. And that's no way for any organization to survive in the long run. So, nonprofits do not live by grants alone. Don't be a one-trick pony. Don't allow your organization to be a one-trick pony. They live or die by the grant. Grants are the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. Another question I ask potential clients: how much money did your board raise last year? Now that's another question that's usually followed by a long, uncomfortable silence, a little stammering, eyes rolling, not quite knowing how to answer that question, because holding volunteers accountable for fundraising is what makes nonprofits effective. Because staff are like hired guns. We come and go. Every 3 to 5 years, you're going to have a new executive director. You're going to have a new program director. If you're depending on them for the sustainability of the organization, when they get promoted or move on, and they're your primary fundraisers, they're going to take those contacts with them, and you're going to be starting over and over again. So focus on your board. When you build your board, when you develop that board, fundraising has got to be a part of it. Not just someone's name, not just someone who writes a check themselves, but someone who's able to reach out into the community and bring those resources back to your organization. I want to tell you a little story, and this is probably the best board development story that I can come up with right now. I had a client one time who came to me and said, Rick, got a problem. My husband and I started this nonprofit about 2 years ago. And we're the only ones who are putting money into this thing. He works full-time, I work full-time, but all the money's coming from us. And it really didn't take too long to figure out what the problem was. So I asked her a couple of questions. I said, think back to when you founded your organization 2 years ago. And you're filling out your 501c3 paperwork, and you come to the part where it says board members. How many board members did you list? And she said, we listed 5. I said, okay. How many board members do you have now? And she said, we have 5. Now you see where I'm going with this? My next question was, of those 5 board members that you have now, are they the same 5 board members that you signed 2 years ago? And she said, yes, they are. I said, so what you're telling me is that when you started that board 5 years ago and you put those 5 names on the list, you thoroughly vetted those people. You thoroughly got their commitment to growing the organization, to committing their time, talent, and treasure, or were they just 5 people who you thought would say yes? Well, if that was the case, that explains why you and your husband are in that rowboat all by yourself, bailing, because you didn't have the right people on the board. Now, you can do a lot of things wrong while running a nonprofit organization, and you will. But if you get board development right, you will always come out smelling like a rose. It can make up for almost any other mistake you're going to make. Well, my time is almost up, and there's a lot more that I would like to cover with you. I wrote a book that has a lot of information in it, and I want to make that book available to you, and I want to make it available to you in a very easy way. What I'd like you to do is take out your cell phones. Now, I know you have one. Everybody's got a cell phone. Get to your texting function, and I want you to text the word book to 301-768-4543. Text the word book to 301-768-4543. I'll send you a link to purchase my book, my Amazon #1 best-selling book, Nonprofit Doesn't Mean No Profit, at a real good price. Well, books are great. Conferences, seminars, workshops, all those things are great. You need those as part of your personal development to grow as nonprofit professionals. But in the end, books end up on shelves. Conferences, the energy fades. Workshops are great, but once you get back to the real world and you take your notes out, they stay on your desk for a while, then eventually they go into the drawer, and you sort of find yourself in that routine again. What most of us really need, what all of us really need, is coaching. Not just temporary motivation, but long-term, regular, consistent coaching. So, I've put together an online coaching program that's going to give you support in the 2 major areas that I feel every nonprofit executive needs, every nonprofit professional needs. The first is fundraising. So my program is called the High Five Fundraising System, and it is a 5-step fundraising program that teaches you how to begin raising money from the grassroots. And incidentally, grants, while they are a part of that system, they are the 5th step. They are the last step, not the first step. So those of you who think, well, as soon as I get that big grant, it's going to solve my problem, you've got another thing coming. The 5 steps will take you through things like virtual fundraising. It will take you through list building, donor cultivation. It will take you through fundraising events. It will take you through annual campaigns. And all those things together are going to build a foundation that's going to allow you to get that grant. Think about foundations and corporations that give grants. Think about them like banks. A bank is not going to give you a loan unless you don't need the money. Same with funding organizations. They're not going to give you money if you need that money to keep your doors open. That's not their problem. They want their money to go to the mission of their organization. They're giving you that money as stewards to make their vision happen. If they think you're going to be using that money to patch the roof and pay the electric bill and to cover payroll, they're not going to give you that money. The way you can show them that you're deserving of that money is to have other funding in place to make sure that their money is going to go to the purpose for which they intended to go. Now, the second program is the Phoenix Board Development Program. I call it the Phoenix Program. I named it after that mythical bird that rises from its own ashes, more majestic and more powerful than before. That's what needs to happen with our boards. They need to put aside the misunderstandings and all of those things that have caused them to be ineffective in the past and have a rebirth. And staff can lead that rebirth. But it's not about the staff, it's about the volunteers. So I will show you how to bring a board back, or more importantly, when you're starting out, to put these things in place from the very beginning so that your board is effective and functional and can go on without you. So that in 3 to 5 years, when you get that big promotion and you go on to bigger and better things, that organization you leave behind is going to function just as well, if not better, without you. And that's a sign of good leadership. Sign of the best leadership. And that's what I want to help you to achieve. Now, I want you to stay tuned because I've got a very special offer that's going to allow you to participate in either the fundraising or the board development online coaching seminars. So once again, I want you to take out your cell phones. And this time, I want you to text the word coach to 301-768-4543. That's coach, C-O-A-C-H, to 301-768-4543. And I will contact you personally. No one's going to, an operator's not going to call you. I'll contact you personally, and we'll talk about what it is that you need and which of the programs you need. Maybe you need both. But whatever it is, it'll be a one-on-one coaching experience. It'll be individualized for you, set to a timetable that works for you. And I think that ultimately is the way that we're going to be successful, is to have that kind of leadership and that kind of coaching at your disposal. Then you can buy all the books, you can go to all the workshops and seminars you want. It'll be plussing your basic general background. Well, that's it. I hope you found this beneficial. I enjoyed bringing this information to you. I certainly look forward to having the opportunity to work with you on a one-on-one basis in the coaching programs, or just as people that we can be networking together. We see each other out and around. So my name is Rick Hopkins, and I wish you the best in financial success.